that was a great high five. Yeah, hi all, it's so great to be here, and I'm in the Pacific Northwest, so I'm feeling right at home, and it's lovely. So I'm here to talk to you about building and scaling distributed teams. And I have a theory about what's really going on here. So I bet many of you are doing the remote work thing, but you don't necessarily identify as a distributed team, TM. So this quote went viral a couple of weeks ago on Twitter. Right, and it's quite a claim. This is that distributed teams are the biggest productivity shift of our lifetime. And if you had to think about how many teams are distributed now, would you think it's maybe 1 out of 10? Or now that I've put this quote up, you're thinking, okay, I'll update that like 3 or 4 out of 10. Any guesses? Right, so remote work is actually staggering. The prevalence is astronomical. This is respondents from the Stack Overflow developer survey, so the people we're all trying to hire. And 64% of them are working from home at least 1 day a month. Now, that is a distributed team. That's the person sitting next to you on your left, and also the person sitting next to you on your right. So can I see a super quick show of hands? Who here has a teammate that works from home at least some of the time, like 1 day a month or more? Yeah, I did have a theory that this was going on here. Right. Now, I bet this is you a lot of the time. So remote work is happening to you in many ways, right? It's something that you're embracing because it's the biggest productivity shift, because you can hire, but it feels like you're herding cats, and it's really hard to keep people on the same page. It's really hard to know what's going on. People get left out of things. It's pretty chaotic, and it's not a lot of fun many of the times, right? This is completely normal. You are not alone. Also, it does not have to be this way. So this is the Buffer team, and I'm recently VP of Engineering at Buffer, and we're globally distributed. So these are our actual team members. And you can see that we're in every time zone, pretty much from Columbus, Ohio, right through to Colombo, Sri Lanka. Now, I'm at the most extreme side of this remote work spectrum, but I'm here to share with you some of the things that I've learned building and scaling out a globally distributed team that you can apply wherever you are on your spectrum, whether that's 1 teammate 1 day a month, or a team that looks like this. So the 4 key things that you need to get right. Okay, you need to hire and onboard folks successfully. You need to figure out that decision making. You need to get everybody to collaborate, which is hard. And then you need to manage people. You need to be a good leader when you don't see folks in person. So this is where the developers are. Again, Stack Overflow developer survey. And it looks a lot like the Buffer team app. So my favorite problem in hiring from this pool is that I'll often get up to 1,500 applicants for a single open role. And when I talk to my peers in co-located teams, I often hear, I can't fill this role at all. I have that terrible sensation of telling a lot of amazing people no. Our engineering team is also 40% women. It's fairly diverse. So it's not just that we can hire from a really big global pool. We're also able to be more inclusive to people that might be parents, caregivers, or differently abled, and they just can't commute into an office. But if you're hiring remotely from a team that looks like this, one of the major problems you'll face is you're building a network of freelancers, right? Not an actual distributed team. And it feels very fragmented, and you find yourself kind of running an open source project, and there's a real good reason you don't actually work in open source. So you need to beat that fragmentation at the start. Now, the way that your new teammate lands on your team really matters. In increasing our distributed engineering team by more than 40% this year, I relied on our buddy system. So every teammate gets an engineering manager and a detailed 30, 60, 90-day onboarding plan. They also get a role buddy. Now, the role buddy is there to answer all the questions about the role. Same team, ideally a closer time zone, debug that dev environment, everything they need to be successful. And a culture buddy. And that culture buddy's whole job is to explain how we work remotely, how we communicate, how our values apply to our everyday work. So by swarming onto this new person with 3 individuals to each 1 new person, they become a real member of the team, fully integrated very quickly, And we avoid that problem where new folks kind of band together to support each other because it feels safer, and then you have these fragmented little groups of people splitting off. Now, once you've hired from this massive global pool, and it's great, how do you get things done, right? How do you make decisions? And that's pretty difficult. It's the keystone of an effective distributed team, and it's non-trivial to get right. People are out of sight, out of mind, and if you aren't really explicit about what you're deciding, those 5% differences in what everybody thinks we're talking about, they end up being these massive 90% differences down the road, and you're all on very different pages. So make sure that you clarify what the decision is. Like, will we be launching this feature to new to Buffer users on Tuesday? And be super explicit about that. Then once you have your decision really explicit, you want to decide who your decision makers are. Now, these two steps, I don't see that commonly in remote teams, and this is most of the work of decision making. You can just say, OK, Brooklyn's going to decide that we launch the feature, or you could do a responsibility assignment matrix, RACI. R stands for responsible to actually make the decision. A there is for accountable, so that's often a line manager, like an engineering manager or a tech lead. C, who is consulted on that problem, typically subject matter expert, somebody really close to the problem. And I, who needs to be informed? Get that list of people you need to inform. You will want it later. Then you make the decision, and that's actually the easy part because you've already got the decision decided and the decision makers. So we do that on scheduled video calls. We'll do that in email. We'll do that in request for comment documents. We love Slack, but we do not make decisions in Slack. That's really important if you have an asynchronous distributed team, because if you make your decisions in Slack, like important, meaningful, impactful decisions, it's a really quick way to erode trust with team members that get left out, because they were excluded from an important decision, right? And also you put people into a really tough binary where they can either continuously watch Slack, like watch those messages go, and these are people that you want to be doing deep work heads down, right? So they either got to read Slack all the time to participate in the decision, or they're going to actually get in the flow and code, and then they're going to come back and they're going to be like, well, seriously, like you just decided that? And there's no win-win situation there. So we love Slack. It's our virtual office. We don't make decisions in Slack. And then lastly, document the decision. So we send around emails for every meeting with meeting notes, and that's really important. We use Notion. You can use GitHub, but documentation helps keep everybody aligned. Right, now if you're making effective decisions and you've built out this distributed team, this kind of sparring of back and forth is probably something that you hear people say, oh, I can't get this right on my distributed team. And Marissa Mayer, she famously solved that for Yahoo by bringing everyone into the office together to like collaborate and innovate in little rooms with fluorescent lighting. And the problem is real. I really do understand that problem. But I don't agree with the solution because my entire role as VP of Engineering is to build an effective, collaborative, distributed team. And it definitely can be done. So this is the one key thing we do is keep our teams small and keep them cross-functional. So this is an actual product engineering team. This is Buffer Reply. And we've organized it, product engineers working together with the product manager, and that they're organized around the product scope, reply, and they're therefore cross-functional by default. They almost need to collaborate. It's not an API team over here and then front-end devs over there, because that's really hard when you distribute it. And keeping it small reduces those coordination costs. That intentional decision-making I laid out, it's a lot of work, right? It's less work than not doing it, but if you try to do that with 11, 12, 15 people, it'll bog you down. And then we also do social stuff. We do book clubs. We do Zoom calls where we just show our Halloween costumes. And we have a little donut bot integration, which if you want that one quick hack to make your distributed team better, the donut Slack bot is that one little hack. Right. My dad actually texted me this cartoon, and he was like, is this your reality? I'm kind of worried. And for a lot of people it is, right? With remote work, it blurs the boundaries between whether you're living at home or, sorry, of course you're living at home, whether you're working from home or living at work. And people often ask me when they hear, oh, I lead a distributed engineering team, they go, how do you know they're working? And firstly, I get enraged and then need to count to 10. And the problem is not, how do I know that my team is working? It's how do I know that they ever stop, right? Because it's so much easier to say, oh, that feature's really close, and then just like work an extra 8 hours through the night to get it done by stand-up tomorrow. And people don't want to say they stuck, because how can they prove to you that they were not actually just watching Netflix? And you don't think that. You're a trusting leader, right? But they worry that you think it, so they overwork. Now, if you're managing remotely, you can't see what's going on by walking around. So you don't see who's really stuck, who's working late, who's seeming a little bit off color. And we rely on remote one-to-ones for people to tell us what's going on with them. So we do these an hour a week over Zoom. Sometimes we'll do like walking one-to-ones just with audio, which is really nice. And I do skip level one-to-ones every 6 weeks, which it's a lot of time, but you do need to give people that amount of time in order for them to tell you what's going on with them. And you need that two-way communication, because you can't just see how people are reacting and whether they're doing okay. As a leader, you can do a lot to model boundaries and to leave loudly. So if you're signing out for the weekend, it's like, I'm signing out for the weekend, I'm not going to work this weekend. You might know I'm going to take vacation, I won't take my laptop and I'll recharge, but your team won't know that unless you make it very explicit, because they're not seeing it, right? So be loud and proud about those work-life boundaries that you have. If you don't have them, you should get them before you burn yourself and your entire team out. And the last one is a public service announcement here around mental health. So distributed teams, people are physically isolated. They are not seeing other humans in person, and that is an actual health risk. It's like working in an office with asbestos. So people are statistically more likely to develop loneliness, and that is correlated with anxiety and with depression, like the clinical conditions. So that trusting manager relationship can help you know when that's happening to a teammate. And a manager's not a therapist, but you'll need to know when to point folks in the direction of professional help. So having that set up, we provide in-network psychologists. We talk about mental health a lot. We provide a service called Joyable, which is cognitive behavioral-based therapy, online coaching. And we encourage people to work at co-working spaces and expense their coffee at coffee shops just to get out and with other humans. So you got to really wear your safety belt with working remotely, because it can be a mental health risk. And again, as a leader, this is where you can socialize it. So I struggle with anxiety, and I put it in my calendar like, oh, I'm going to the therapist now. And it is just like going to the dentist. And I know that might seem a little bit shocking or weird, but if you're wanting your engineering teams to tell you, like, hey, I'm battling, I'm so anxious, they're going to be very worried about your reaction. So if you just treat it as a very normal thing, if you just sort of say, yeah, okay, I'm going to the therapist, sure, you've got a much better chance of everybody just getting the mental health care that they need. And on-sites are really critical. We do these twice a year to see teammates in person, and that's, I'd say, a bare minimum. Remote workers that never see their coworkers are more disengaged, and they're a lot more likely to quit. So these are all the tools that we use at Buffer right now to run our globally distributed team. I'll put these tools, these slides, up on speaker deck so you can grab them. And if you have tools that are working well for you, I'd love to hear. We're always evolving what we use. And now you'll know what these 4 key elements of an effective distributed team are. So it's hiring and onboarding folks, it's making decisions, it's collaborating when you don't see people, and then managing remotely. And you're all going to be rocking this remote work thing. But if you're not, I love talking about this topic. It is my favorite. Please, my Twitter handle is here. Find me at office hours, reach out to me, and I will help you with all of your cat herding problems. I do think this is the biggest productivity shift in our lifetime, and I'm here to help you get this right. Thanks.